Stephanie. Shannon Bruins here, and we are excited to come talk to you.
Hi, Shannon.
So I knew you couldn't wait, and you were just dying to talk about forbearance today. So really
Yeah,
excited for it.
I am excited to talk about it. I think a lot of people don't really understand what it is, so go ahead and fill me in.
Okay, so forbearance is this buzzword that we've been hearing for a while now. Ever since COVID started, it was immediately like, oh, you should put your mortgage in forbearance. A forbearance will help you, it'll save you. So, what really is forbearance? It's if your basically your mortgage company agrees to either let you reduce or stop your current payments. Now, you will still owe that money, but they may put that back on the end, that kind of thing. So they're basically pausing your payments for you if you might have lost your job or whatever reason you decided to do the forbearance. It's for
Okay.
it's kind of for a limited amount of time, which I think some people did and didn't understand, but there was like a 12-month window for COVID that they started the whole forbearance happening.
I
And
see.
that's where we saw it. So, as realtors, we're running into this a great deal with people being in forbearance. So, I had a lot of questions about what does that mean for you as a homeowner if you went and put your house in forbearance.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it could have a lot of consequences and maybe even some unintended consequences too if people don't really understand what they're doing all the way. If
Mhm.
it's not explained. And I know it can probably vary from bank to bank and lender to lender, like depending on who has your mortgage, right?
It does. It really does vary from bank to bank and what they're doing. So let's say that you said, you know what, my work has dropped my pay, so I want to put my mortgage in forbearance, and you called your lender. So
Mhm.
they may have said, okay, I have a paused payment. And when you pause that payment, here's what's going to happen. But they might not have told you what's going to happen. And depending on the bank and depending on how they decide to do it, it could be where they tack on all of the missed payments and the interest at the end of your loan. It could be that they say, okay, well, now you're going to be on a payment plan to catch up once you go out of forbearance. So 6 months later, you are 6 months behind. They won't necessarily say put you in a behind or a delinquent status, but they're gonna say, hey, we want that money back now, which
Right.
is very difficult for people to come up with this lump sum of money.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Right? Right? Like, wait, everybody said go in forbearance, and now all of a sudden they have no money and they can't do it, right? Like, what are we gonna do? So, oh, you were gonna ask, maybe? No?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to know. So, like, what happens if someone's in forbearance and then they realize, hey, I'm never going to be able to catch up? I've been out of work for too long, or, um, what if they realize they need to sell their house? Then what happens then?
So there's a couple things that can happen. And what we've seen a lot of people do is we've seen them have to take their house out of forbearance to move forward. But you don't necessarily have to sell. So let's say that you are like, hey, I want to sell, and you want to you're just going to go into a rental or something like that, right? As long as you have at least 2 to 3 weeks to get the mortgage payoff, you can still sell it, because what happens is the forbearance department is a different department, and so they have to calculate the interest differently. So you can
Oh,
sell if you are in forbearance, but you just need a little extra time. You need to be prepared for it. If you, though, want to purchase, you cannot have any mortgages in forbearance. So you would definitely, if you said, I want to sell and purchase something else, like maybe you wanted to get something smaller so your payment would be less, you've got to take your mortgage out of forbearance. do whatever the bank says to catch up, whether it's tacked on the end or there's a balloon payment or there's a payment plan. You have to start doing that. You have to be out for 2 weeks to then be able to purchase something else.
Okay. Yeah, so it seems like it would be difficult depending on what the bank's asking you to do.
Mm-hmm. Couple interesting things that we ran into is, so let's say that COVID hit and you were like, why is everybody talking about this forbearance thing? What is this? And you just went in on your bank and you inquired. Like you said, I'm curious to know what this means. They could have accidentally put you in forbearance and you don't even know it. You could be making your mortgage payments and you could still be in forbearance.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy that that would happen. But I know we've seen banks sometimes in the past do kind of similar things. So, yeah,
With
that's really crazy.
some re-amortization and things in the past kind of went like that too. So if you think that you might have said something to your bank about, hey, or you might have inquired, you may just want to go in to your bank, call your bank, whatever, and check and make sure that you are in status, you're not accidentally put in forbearance because without your knowledge of it even happening. Because that was really shocking to us to see that our clients could be in that and not know it. I mean, they've been making payments the entire time, not stop, and they still had them in a forbearance status to where it wasn't going towards their mortgage.
Wow.
They were accruing interest.
Yeah.
Um, so forbearance is not everything's cracked up to be. Now, it can be something really good for people if they really needed it or they needed to be in forbearance. Yet you just have to be aware. So with the market being so great right now, people are like, well, maybe I just need to go ahead and sell because I could make so much more money for my house. So we kind of been looking at that, and then when we have to ask them and they tell us that they're in forbearance, then we just have to look at, okay, this is just going to affect what your proceeds are, but that doesn't mean you can't still sell and take advantage of the market.
So sounds like they need a knowledgeable agent then. That's what
Definitely.
it sounds like.
You always need to have a knowledgeable agent on your side to help you so that you can navigate the system.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
You know, what we had talked about is rentals.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about how I know that definitely there's been a lot of changes with evictions. And so now the government is not allowing evictions. And I wonder what that means for the owner of the property because, I mean, it puts them in a bind, right?
Right. So this is kind of us looking at what's happening in the market now and then predicting what could happen. But let's say that you're a landlord and you have like 10 properties and you don't have money if your tenants don't pay, right? So 1 month you can get by, 2 months it's getting tight. But if they start not paying and they're sort of trying to beat the system, then you may need to put your mortgage on that rental property in forbearance. Now, we talked to some folks that are in with, the rental commission in Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem, and they said what they're seeing a ton of is these tenants saying, well, I mean, my landlord is rich, so they can just pay it and they'll be fine. And it doesn't matter because I don't have to pay my rent. So that has caused kind of its own snowball effect, right? Because they know that right now, because of the moratorium, they can't be evicted. So we have a lot of these landlords that are currently in forbearance But if we're not careful, then because these tenants are deciding not to pay, even though they possibly could pay, maybe they can't, but they possibly could pay their rent, that because then they've made and forced their landlord to go in forbearance, the forbearance is going to come up in like 12 months, right? So so far it's not extended. And then the landlord is going to have to get foreclosed on. And then the tenant's going to be evicted anyways.
Yeah, just later on down the road, maybe.
Right. Right. Because when there's a foreclosure, they will get evicted. So with them thinking, okay, we're not going to pay, it's still going to hurt them down the road. Now, what we're thinking is if we start having all these foreclosures, they're on rental properties, which can be any shape, size, price, whatever, those flood the market, they're going to pull the market down. So pricing is going to go down and people are not going to be getting as much if we're flooded into the market. Now, what we would suggest is that if they see an issue or they see that their tenant's not paying or that they're in a bind because of their mortgages, that they should consider selling now and look at pricing on what they could get before there's an issue in the market. So they could sell and get their best price and then basically save themselves from foreclosure, hits on their credit, hurt in their business, those things.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot to think about.
A lot, right? Well, and I think people you don't think about the effects of what each little decision does, right? But if people are in forbearance, they can still sell. That is still a possibility. And so I think people need to think about that if they're in a place where they need to really consider doing it.
Okay. So if someone's in forbearance right now and they have questions, they should give you a call and
Yeah,
see, or
definitely give us a call at the Bruins Realty Group. They can also, send us a message and we'll call them and we can just discuss it. We're happy to kind of go through the scenarios, look at where they're at, what's going on with their bank, and really dig in and help them work through it. Because I think that's what they need. They need guidance on what is going to be best. And that's what we're always looking for is how can we help you and your family best with your financial situation and what you're trying to do.
yeah, absolutely. Well, was there anything else about forbearance that I should know about?
I don't think if there's anything that we're forgetting. I think the biggest thing is if you're not already in it, don't just make a snap decision to do forbearance. Think about what it could mean or what it does mean for your mortgage in the future and your finances.
Down the road, yeah.
We even do have clients call and ask us, what do you think I should do?
Okay.
And we know all the facts. We can definitely help them, answer questions so they can make the best decision. But yeah, it's a tool, but it might not be the best tool for you during COVID and all this time.
Cool. Well, if anyone has questions and you're watching this video, I guess just comment or give us a call and we can walk you through it.
Absolutely. Bruins Realty Group is here to help you guys, and we're happy to educate during this really exciting, interesting, and challenging time. All right. Well, yeah, unless you can think of anything else, Stephanie, we'll sign off.
All right. That's
Okay.
it.
Bye.
Bye.